The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
For those of you who've joined in early, the session is about to begin in a few minutes. Make yourself comfortable, probably grab a notepad and a cup of coffee. We are going to have an interesting session today and it is going to start in a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you for a quick little favor, the usual sound check. Alright? Please tell me if you can hear me loud and clear, and also do tell me if you can see my screen. A quick sound check and a screen check. If you can hear me loud and clear, make use of the chat window to let me know. Oh, thank you so much, Kami. Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you so much, guys. I've got the confirmation. All right. There are more responses. Thank you once again for the confirmation. Great participation already. Okay, so we are going to have the session beginning in another minute. All right. Hi all, a very good afternoon. Thank you for having taken the time to have joined me in today's session. This is Jay, product expert from the AD Solutions team here at ManageEngine. So first things first, before I get into today's session, for those of you who want to try out the product as I demonstrate, you can make use of the cloud instance that we've hosted for you. Just give me one quick moment and I'm going to show you how to make use of the cloud instance. The URL is going to be demo.admanagerplus.com. So on your screen is the URL for the cloud instance that you can make use of, and 3, 2, 1, and on your chat is the links to the URL. Alright, you've got the link right here which says demo.admanagerplus.com. You can make use of this specific URL to try out the features as I demonstrate today. One quick tip, if you want to make use of the features, make sure that you log in as the administrator, because the administrator account is going to have all the privileges. Alright? Maybe at a later point in time you can try out the technician account as well and see what ADManager Plus has to offer. So demo.admanagerplus.com can help you get first-hand experience of the product. Okay, so that's as regards to the demo, the cloud instance that's hosted. And in case if you have any questions coming up, feel free to make use of the chat window and shoot them right at me. Tell me your questions and I'll take them right away. Or maybe if I miss out on one or two, do not worry, I'll have those questions answered towards the end of the session. All right. And as regards to the recording, a recording of this session can be emailed to you, not a problem at all. All you'll have to do is just drop me a message on the chat with your email ID and I can have it emailed, right? So that's as regards to the chat, the recording, and the cloud instance. Okay, let me get back to the presentation. Yes. So let's start off with a quick recap. First week, we discussed about advanced identity and access provisioning. What do we mean by advanced identity and access provisioning? We started off with the first phase of a user's lifecycle, which is user creation. And when it came to user creation, we saw how to make use of ADManager Plus to use something called as the smart user creation templates and a simple CSV file to get the whole onboarding process done. So all we had to do was create a template and also have a simple CSV file put up with the basic details of the user or the employee who has to be onboarded and get going right away. So we were talking about the first phase of user lifecycle in the first week. This is the second week of the 5-week workshop series, and we're going to be discussing about nothing other than efficient management of AD users. right? So when it comes to management, we will be talking about the second and third phase of a user's life cycle. What are they? The second phase is going to be management or modification of a user's attribute, and the third and final phase is going to be pretty obvious, the deprovisioning phase. So we are going to talk about efficient management of AD users in terms of modification and deprovisioning. We'll go further and talk about Office 365 license management and Exchange mailbox management as well. So what do we understand from these two management actions? Last week, we were talking about user provisioning in a 360-degree manner. We were talking about user provisioning in Active Directory, in Office 365, and Exchange as well. Likewise, it's not just restricted to user provisioning. We also let you manage your Office 365 and Exchange mailboxes right from the same console. So it's going to be a 360-degree management as well. So today's session is going to be all about management of AD users, two things, user creation done. So user modification and deprovisioning is today's task, right? Let me get into the agenda. We'll start off with something pretty interesting. We're going to talk about automatically updating a user's group membership right after the department is changed. So this is the first case I'm taking for today. We'll be talking about automatic user group membership update. And when does this happen? Right after the department is changed. So we'll be making use of something called as smart modification templates, very similar to the user creation templates that we discussed last week. It's going to be the user modification template that we'll be making use of. Okay, so that's the first topic. We'll go further and discuss about file servers getting decommissioned and the corresponding action that's got to be taken after a file server getting decommissioned, which is moving users home folders. So we're going to talk about how to move home folders right after file servers are decommissioned. We'll still go further and talk about modification of SMTP addresses. We'll talk about both single and bulk modification. So quick question, if it's going to be a bulk action that we are performing, bulk user action, be it creation or modification, what do we need? Yes, you got it right. We need a CSV file. So a CSV file is basically going to be our weapon of choice. We are going to make a simple CSV file with details of the users for who you want to create or modify and get the bulk modification done. So it's that simple, right? We will also be talking about simultaneously merging or modifying your primary and secondary SMTP addresses right after domains are merged, and this is going to be using something called as the templates. So that's one thing. So now we're done with user modification. The first four topics are about user modification. The next topic is going to be about deprovisioning, and when it comes to deprovisioning, like I already told, deprovisioning is the third phase of a user's life cycle, and not just that, we'll be talking about deprovisioning in three stages. One, two, three. Three stages. I'll let you know as to what three stages are for deprovisioning, and finally we'll conclude today's session with two other interesting topics, which is management of Exchange mailboxes and management of inactive Office 365 users licenses. So that's going to be the topic for today's session. Without any delay, let me get into the product and let's go hands-on. Yes, so like I already mentioned, this is going to be the demo instance. You can make use of this and try out the product. Let me get into my instance. Yes. So here we are, welcomed by the dashboard view. The dashboard view basically gives you an overview as to what's your existing scenario, your organizational scenario. It gives you details pertaining to the users. It gives you details pertaining to your system and other reports as well. So this is basically the console or the window that's going to give you a quick overview. And what is that? That's the dashboard view, right? So that's the welcome screen. Last week we were talking about user creation, and you do user creation from AD management, right? So it's an AD management action and you do user creation from here. Like you rightly guessed, modification and deprovisioning are also management actions that are under the very same tab. User modification, the first task, and user deprovisioning is going to be explained later, all right? So What is the basic requirement for getting the modification task done? For user creation, we had a CSV file and a user creation template. Likewise, for modification as well, we're going to talk about user modification templates and CSV files. Let me quickly get into user modification templates and kickstart today's session. User modification templates. So what's the purpose or what's the motive behind having a modification template? The answer is very simple and straightforward. What you can do is you can save not just a lot of time but then a lot of effort if you create user modification templates based on details such as your department, based on details such as your roles. So ideally you can have values for different roles or departments preset. So right after a transfer happens or right after a department change happens or even right after a promotion is given to an employee, all of that can be quickly initiated, quickly incorporated, quickly altered using templates called as the user modification templates. So our idea is to create a modification template for a specific department with attributes that are pertaining to that department. So right after the user or the employee gets moved into that department, all you'll have to do is just apply this modification template that's pre-created. The advantage is it's not just going to be for a single user. You can also have user modification templates applied to bulk users. Okay, so let me quickly start off with an example. We are intending to create a user modification template under AD management. User modification templates, create new template it is. Let me take an example. So now let me say I want to create a user modification template for this department called as the IT user accounts. Yes. So what I'm trying to do right here is to create a simple modification template for the IT department. So any user who's getting moved into the IT department need not necessarily go through the normal process of his attributes getting altered using your native ADUC one after the other. So that's a time consuming process and it can probably be error prone as well. So to avoid all of that, we are creating a simple template for the IT department. So the description is going to be a template for users moving into IT department. All right. So you are already familiar with this specific view, which is called as the layout view. Last week during user creation, we discussed in detail as to what the layout view can offer. So today, let me quickly start off with the task. We've got the layout view here. Let's start off with the basic modifications. So I'm creating a template for the IT department. Let me start off with something as simple as the description attribute. So it's going to be IT technician. So any user who's getting moved into this department when applied with this template is going to have the department or description attribute set as IT technician. Likewise, I can also alter my container or my organization unit. So what do I alter it to? I'm going to set it to the IT department. I'm setting that and hitting OK. Okay, so my general tab that's got my general details pertaining to my description, my organization unit is set to IT and IT, right? IT technician as the description and IT department as my organization unit. So what am I doing right here? I'm customizing this user modification template to suit my requirement, which is a template for the IT department. So the general tab is filled out. Let's go to the accounts tab. From the accounts tab, you can set details such as the user's password. You can also go ahead and set that something critical. So here we're trying to set the department or membership value for a specific department, which is the IT department. Okay. So let me quickly select groups that are pertaining to the IT department. So I'm going to add few groups that are pertaining to the IT department. Searching for groups. Yes, so I've got the list of groups that pertain to the IT department. So I'm selecting all of them and hitting OK. All right, I'm hitting OK again. So my membership, my group membership is set right from the accounts tab. You can also choose to alter other values right here, correct? Yes, that can be done. From the contacts tab, let me quickly alter the department to information and technology, and let me specify the manager attribute as well. So what am I trying to do right here is pretty simple. I've got all of my attributes categorized under different headers like the general tab, like the accounts tab and the contacts tab. So from these tabs, I can pre-specify values for different attributes. So now we are under the contacts tab trying to set the manager attribute for the IT department. So I'm looking for the manager and it's going to be IT admin USA. Hitting OK. Alright, so we've got the basic layout configured to our requirement. We are creating a template for the IT department. We filled out the general tab with description attribute filled out as IT technician with the organization unit set as IT department. From the accounts tab, we filled out the membership. So ideally, for any user who gets moved into this specific department, be it IT, be it finance, let's say finance, if it were to be a template for the finance department, the group membership is going to be all the more critical because the finance department is going to have access to critical data and their group membership is going to be correspondingly set. In that case, you can pre-specify values for those groups for which the users who are going to belong to the finance group should have access to. So you can pre-specify that and just apply this template and we are good to go. So group memberships get altered or get modified to this that's set right here. Okay. Likewise, we've configured the contacts tab and we've set the department value. We've also gone a step further and we've specified the manager attribute, right? We've entered IT admin USA as the value for manager. We've set this person to be the manager for the entire group. So henceforth, anybody who's getting moved into the IT department using this template is going to have department set as IT and manager set as IT admin USA. I think I've explained enough of the layout view. Simple, pretty straightforward, and self-explanatory. There are a few more things in the layout view that I'll want you to take note of. You can feel free to customize any of these as per your requirement. All right. The most important thing is modification rules. So like the creation rules that we had for user creation templates, you can also go ahead and make use of the modification rules to set conditions and have corresponding values mapped when the condition is met. Okay, let me get into modification rules. So what are we creating this template for? We're creating this template for the IT department, right? So the modification rules, like I told you, are your gateway or are your key to make this simple layout view or the simple user modification template an intelligent template. So we are trying to make this template an intelligent template by creating a modification rule. Hit create. Like I told you, a rule has two parts. One is the conditions part and number two is the part where you assign a value. So basically the condition is where you set your reference attribute or where you set the condition that's got to be met, and from the assign values section you tend to or you can assign values for those attributes that are to be set automatically right after the condition is met. So here the condition is going to be department. Since I'm aware that the user is getting moved or getting promoted to a specific department, I can say department and specify it as information and technology. So the condition is going to be department and the value is going to be information and technology. So if this modification rule condition is met, the values that I'll want to automatically be assigned are going to be the description attribute being set as IT technician. Adding that, you can add multiple values to be assigned with one condition or with one rule. All right. So the description attribute is set. Next up, let's get the membership attribute set right. The group membership. So member of attribute is also going to be modified. I'm going to search for IT groups, trying to add groups right here that are pertaining to the IT department. IT department related groups and hitting OK. So saving that and hitting add. So that brings us to one condition and two rules, or one condition and two values to be assigned. Let me quickly add one more and stop right there. What more can be added? The container can be set. The container or the organization unit, let me set that to the IT department. Okay, yes, and hitting add. Okay, so we've successfully added a modification rule. The first step of having a modification rule in place is to set a condition that's got to be met. The second step is going to be to have values assigned when this condition is met. So since my department is IT or information and technology, the values for description, member of, and the container or OU are going to be pertaining to this specific department. Now, you must have a question. Pretty simple. So a while back I was making use of the layout view to clearly do almost something very similar to this. But then why am I recreating the same thing, or why am I redoing the same thing with modification rule? So that's a logical question that should have come up in your mind. Pretty simple. The idea behind having modification rules is to make this template intelligent. If you were to just make use of layout view, you can have one template per department set. But then if you want to create a template for any of the user onboarding or modification for that matter, just have a template for all user accounts and have modification rules logically set based on departments. So now that I have one condition right here, okay, excuse me, I can add one more condition right here for another department. So that's the idea. So for multiple departments, I can have one template or one modification template set. Say for example, let's take the case of your trainees being moved into different departments. So during the training phase, they're going to have certain basic attributes or basic accesses. But then right after their training period gets over, say 6 months after that gets over, they're going to be put into different departments. At that point in time, you need not take the pains of going ahead and modifying trainee after trainee based on different departments, but instead select this specific modification template, have modification rules configured based on departments. So the first rule was for the IT department, so I can say rule as IT department. Likewise, I can have my second rule set for the finance department. So finance is set. So like I did right here, setting the description attribute, setting the membership attribute, I can have my custom membership attribute set. Finance staff, I want to say that and add that. So likewise, what I can do is I can go on and on with different departments with corresponding values to be assigned when one condition is met, which is the department attribute. And with one template and with modification rules, I can have all of my users modified or moved to different departments correspondingly with just one single simple CSV file and one template. So all you need is two things: a modification template and a CSV file, and we're done with the whole process of user account modification. So it gets that simple, right? So for this example, let me just stick to the IT department and clear this off. I hope I've been clear till now. Yes, thank you for the confirmation. Okay. So what are we doing right here? We are creating a simple user modification template for the IT department. So all this long I was working with the layout view and had it customized as per my requirement. The contacts tab was altered to meet the IT department. The manager was set. The accounts tab I had group memberships correspondingly added, and from the general tab I filled out the description attribute and the container as well. So let me quickly go ahead and save this template. Yes, so I've successfully saved the template. Okay, let me show you a test user that we created last week. We created Flintstone, right? If you remember. So Flint has joined the organization last week. Let's say he's joined the organization and he's been a trainee. All right. So Flint has certain attributes that are associated with his trainee department, or he's a part of the trainee group. So his description is set as trainee. His container or OU is set as trainee as well. Pretty obvious and logical. Likewise, his access is actually restricted because he's a basic trainee. So his group membership is just going to be domain users maybe. All right. Just a minute. Under the accounts tab, we will be able to figure out his group membership. Yes, so he's just a member of the domain users group, right? Likewise, from the contacts tab, we're able to see that he's a part of the IT department. So basically, Flint, who has joined the organization as a trainee for the IT department, is now going to get promoted or moved officially as a full-time employee into your IT department. So that's the case that we are discussing today. So Flint has performed exceptionally well. People at his organization are happy and he's getting moved to the IT department. So we've got Flint right here. And in a while, I'm going to show you the magic in happening. Right. So what did I do? I looked for this specific user called as Flint from my search bar right here. So this is basically an object search bar from where I can look out for any user. So let me quickly show that once more. Searching for Flint and I have Flint in place. Alright. So when I want to modify Flint's properties or Flint's account details, when I'm planning to give Flint a promotion, I look for Flint, have his account right in front of me. Please notice the description is trainees. The organization unit is also trainees. And from the accounts tab, like I pointed out earlier, the group membership is just restricted to the domain users and Flint is a part of the IT department. So all of that said and done, let me quickly show you as to how to promote Flint or how to change Flint's department. A while back, I created a template for the IT department user accounts. So let me click apply and you'll be able to see these attributes getting modified like magic. Yes, so there you go. We've promoted Flint into the IT department. So like you can see, the description attribute has been altered to IT technician. The container is also altered to IT department. Initially it was trainees and now it's IT department. Likewise, from the accounts tab, let's see if his group membership is altered. Yes, Flint has now access to these IT related groups additionally. So before, Flint was just a part of this group called as the domain users. Now that he is officially into the organization, he is no longer a trainee, and since he is into the IT department, he's got the privilege of having access to all these groups right here. So if we were to make use of the native tool or native ADUC, modifying one property after the other is going to be time consuming and tedious, and not just that, you might end up making errors because it's not just going to be Flint who's going to get moved to a new department. Day in, day out as administrators, you're going to handle quite a load of user modification tasks that you'll have to be performing. So if you were to use native tools, again, like I pointed out, you'll have to do it manually, one user after the other, and you can't have this done in bulk. What's the alternative option that we have? We've got the option to have user modification templates created, all right, like the one that's right here. A while back I created this, and simply search for the user, alter his properties, or otherwise you can do a bulk modification action. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So let me quickly hit update, or before that let me quickly preview to see if his attributes are rightly altered. From being a trainee, Flint's getting moved to a specific department, which is the IT department. So his description is being modified from being trainees to IT technician. Likewise, his OU, or the container of which he is a part of, the trainees department, is getting moved to the IT department. Alright. His group membership is also getting moved and altered to domain users along with the IT department. Okay. And finally, the manager attribute was also set. How was this all possible? Because we had a modification template in place and hitting update. So we've successfully promoted Flint with just a few clicks. It's that easy. So let me quickly get back to AD management. We were discussing till now about user modification. We created a simple user modification template and we took the case of the IT department. We looked up for Flint and modified his group membership automatically, which was the first case, auto updating users group membership whenever the department is changed. So we automatically updated Flint's group membership with just one simple click. It gets that easy. We had looked up for Flint. So that was a case where we had just one user. What if you want to modify a bulk of users? So for bulk users, it's one thumb rule that applies to any bulk modification or bulk creation action, which is a simple CSV file. So all we'll need is a CSV file with values that are pertaining to the user's account, and you'll have to hit this specific modify users option right here, import the CSV file and get going with the task. So let me quickly show you how to do that. For that, we'll need a basic CSV file with headers like the SAM account name. So why is SAM account name? Because SAM account name is going to be the unique LDAP header that's going to help you find out your specific user. SAM account name. You can have other attributes filled out like the template pre-specified if you want to. So you must have a question as to how to figure out what LDAP header corresponds to which specific AD attribute. Pretty simple. Right after you click import, we've got an option that can actually give you a sample CSV file. Clicking on the sample CSV file will take you to a window from where you can take inspiration and have your users modified with these basic attributes, or you can make use of the exhaustive list of CSV headers that are available. So CSV headers, this takes you to the window from where you can make your very own CSV file with corresponding LDAP attributes. So you will have to have the reference attribute rightly set, which is the SAM account name, and specify the template name, the modification template name that you plan to call for. So here it's going to be Flint Stone, and the template is going to be the IT user accounts template. So likewise, you can have multiple user, let's say Roger Ferrer into the finance department, finance user accounts. Rafael is going to be a part of the marketing department. So likewise, if I want to move users from one department to the other department, all I'll have to do is just key in the name of the user who's getting moved and have the corresponding template name filled out in a simple CSV file, have multiple users put into the CSV file, save this rightly with the right extension, which is save as a CSV file. So user modification .csv file. All right. So now that I've already modified and brought Flint into IT user accounts, I leave that specific task of multiple modification to you. And one quick tip for these templates to work, very simply, you will have to create the right modification rule like I showed you. So you can create department specific modification rules having the right LDAP headers placed, all right, like this simple CSV file that we built, and have your modification task done. So let me quickly show you how to do that. Switching to my console. Yes, we were talking about modifying users in bulk. Under AD management, for bulk user modification, you'll have to hit this button right here. import the CSV file that's got the right set of attributes and hit update in AD, and there you go, like magic, like that single user modification that I showed you a while back, bulk modification is going to take place. So that's as regards to user modification templates. So I've got questions. Just give me one quick moment. Let me see. Emmanuel asks me, what more can be done with modification templates? Okay. So modification templates are not just going to help you when it comes to modifying users, group membership, or modifying users from one department to another. You can also have roles specific modification templates. Like I told you, you can have templates for a specific role. Let me quickly show you. Let me see if I have a template for that. Okay, yes, we've got a template for that. So yes, so this says top executive. The template right here says top executive. So when you have a user being promoted to a specific role, say a top executive role who's got access to all critical data or has got access to critical group membership, right? Use when user is made a top executive. So all you'll have to do is just pick the user who's going to get altered or who's going to get moved or promoted to be a top executive and apply the template like I showed you. Find the user, select the object and hit update. So the top executive template is going to get automatically updated. Right? We were talking about Flint. Yes, click on Flint, search for Flint. From the object viewer screen that we have right here, you can change the template from the available list of template, hit top executive and hit OK if you want to promote Flint to a top executive. So here it's too soon to promote Flint. He just got a promotion. So let me not do that. So yes. Flint or any other user for that matter, all you'll have to do is create templates that are specific to not just departments, also have templates pertaining to a specific role and have corresponding attributes like group membership, like so on and so forth, description, so on and so forth, what are pertaining to that specific role filled out beforehand and just hit apply with that specific template. Is there anything more that can be done with user modification template? Absolutely, yes. Let me quickly show you another example. Okay. We are talking about making a non-mandatory attribute mandatory. So an attribute like employee ID, let's take that as an example. Organization-wide, you have a policy change that dictates that a specific attribute has to be made mandatory. So if you were to do it manually, user after user, it's going to get really tedious for you to modify that. So instead, you can select all the users from either the reports section that we have right here, export them as a CSV file, or if you already have a CSV file with the required data, just import the CSV file into this specific template and have the non-mandatory attribute made mandatory. There are multiple use cases or multiple combinations that with which you can come up with. So we've given you the basic modification template, so you can have your own case. You can build templates that pertain to your requirement, multiple permutations and combinations, things as specific as modifying and making a non-mandatory attribute mandatory, things like having a template for a specific role for specific departments, so you can have data filled out automatically or modified based on your requirement, based on the template that you create. So you have to get creative. You can go ahead, make use of modification templates, have your users modified. The first task for the day is done. We're done with the first task for the day, which is user modification templates. Thank you for the question again, Emmanuel. I hope the question was useful for other people as well, the answer that I had given. Yes. Okay, we're done with the first task, which is user modification. Quick recap, we created a modification template for the IT department. I showed you how to modify a user with just one single click with the modification template that we created. In the modification template, we were talking about intelligent modification rules based on different departments. And for multiple or bulk user modification, you will need a CSV file with user names and corresponding template names for multiple department modifications or simultaneous bulk user modification. Yes, the next topic is going to be about moving home folders right after decommissioning. So when there's a request for a change of an out-of-date file server, maybe that's probably not accounted for or that's probably not well maintained during its lifespan, you'll want to have that file server decommissioned and have a new file server in place. So if that's the case that we're talking about, we are handling a tricky scenario right here. It's not just tricky, it's also tedious because you will have to take pains of moving the home folders and profile paths accordingly and have them mapped to the new location where your file server, where your new file server is getting commissioned. So that's going to be a tedious task when done manually because your home folders, which are more like your vault that contain the user's data, and your profile path that contain the personal settings of a user for probably a remote logon, are very, very critical, and they are directly mapped to the file server where they're hosted. When that gets decommissioned, it becomes mandatory for you to move them rightly to the new location for your environment to be working perfectly fine. So the biggest challenge is to do it manually, one after the other. But then we've got you covered there with a single simple option called as move home folders, saving all the trouble for you, doing all the weightlifting and hard work on your behalf. Under AD management, we're talking about moving home folders. Yes, we've got to the move slash delete home folders module from where you can specify the path to which the home folder has to be moved. So there are certain prerequisites for this to work. Firstly, you'll have to select this. Yes, obvious. Select this and the file server path that you specify, the new file server path to which it's getting migrated or moving has to be in this specific format called as the Universal Naming Convention path. So that's the format that's supported, UNC path or Universal Naming Convention path. Very similar to the example that's shown right here. So that's the path that you'll have to specify for your migration to be successful. Okay, so the migration is not just going to be for your home folders. We also have provision to move profile path. Okay, again, the UNC convention applies to this as well. So Universal Naming Convention, that's the supported convention. You specify the required location right here. Okay. Once you're done with specifying the location, the next obvious step is to select the list of users who you want to move. You can do that via a CSV import. Again, a simple CSV import with just the SAM account names. You don't even need the template names. So it's that simple. All I'll have to do is have my SAM account name for all my users typed out, have the location specified and import the CSV file and hit OK. So that's one way to do it. The alternative approach, the standard alternative approach is to search for the user for who I want this migration to happen and hit OK. Right. So that's as regards to moving home folders. I'll want you to make an observation right here. Here we've got an option that says retain a copy in the original location. So when would you ideally want to locate or should I say why would you ideally want to retain a copy? Pretty simple. For security reasons, as a best practice, you can have a copy retained in your original location. So if something were to go wrong, if the migration was unsuccessful, you can always revert back with this specific copy that's retained in the original location. This is a best practice. I'd advise you to have this option enabled just to make sure that there's nothing going wrong. So you can modify or move home folders. How do you do that? It's a AD management action that we're talking about. For all AD management actions, we come to this tab that says ADMGMT. In this case, it's going to be about moving home folders. So move home folders. I'm specifying the path to which it's got to be moved to in the UNC format or Universal Naming Convention format. I'm also, as a best practice, retaining a copy in the original location, choosing to import the CSV file that I have, or I can also select the user after searching and hit OK. The movement of home folder right after a file server decommissioning is done. So the second case for the day is also done. Next case is going to be about SMTP address modification. So we're going to talk about modifying SMTP addresses. So you might have your own reason to modify SMTP addresses. So let me quickly get into the case, or let me quickly show you how to do that. So we're talking about modifying a user's attribute. It can be done with a CSV import, a simple CSV import one, or if you want the application to do it on your behalf in a specific naming format or in a specific pre-specified or predefined format, you can make use of this option. So if you want to custom modify SMTP addresses, the option that you'll have to use is modify users with a CSV import. If you want to take a templated approach, so if you want to update the primary and secondary SMTP address based on a template value, right? A templated approach, you do it with this option right here, modify SMTP address under exchange tasks in AD management. Let me start off with modifying SMTP address of a specific user based on my custom requirement. All right, let me quickly search for the test user William Smith. We're searching for Will Smith, right? William Smith. We've got Will Smith. Let's see what his existing SMTP address is. So SMTP address from the Exchange tab. So the primary SMTP address right now is set as williamsmith@workshop.com. William at this point in time does not have a secondary SMTP address. So let's quickly create a simple CSV file for altering William's SMTP address, both the primary that's already set and the secondary that's going to be set. Alright. So what do we need? Like I told you, we need a simple CSV file with the SAM account name. So why do we need the SAM account name? The SAM account name is basically the fingerprint attribute or the unique identifier that's going to help you look up for the user for who you want to do the modification. So one question that must have come up in your mind is this. So when I'm keying in the LDAP header, I'm maintaining a specific case. S in lowercase, A in uppercase. So this has to be strictly followed for this to work. And like I told you, you can avail or make use of the lists that I showed a while back to get this format right. So we've got the SAM account name in the right casing, followed by the attribute that's got to be modified. The attribute is the SMTP address, and the corresponding attribute for SMTP address in LDAP is going to be proxy addresses. Alright, I've got the SAM account name, I've got the proxy addresses specified, and it's going to be modification for William Smith. So SAM account name rightly put. I'm looking to modify both the primary and secondary SMTP address. So primary SMTP address modification needs this tag, which is SMTP in uppercase, and my secondary SMTP address is going to be in lowercase. Okay, so I'll want to modify williamsmith@workshop.com to have a SMTP address that says alright, wsmith@workshop.com. Likewise, I'll want to alter my secondary SMTP address to williams@workshop.com. So what am I doing right here? I'm trying to alter the SMTP address, or basically for that matter an AD user attribute using a CSV import. So this can be for a single user or a bulk of users. So here I've taken example of William Smith, whose existing primary SMTP address is the one that I'm pointing to, and I'm wanting to change it to this specific SMTP format that I've listed right here. So for clarity's sake, let me quickly add numbers right next to it so that we can see the modification in live. So SAM account name done, proxy addresses or the SMTP header specified, SAM account name given, the primary and the secondary SMTP addresses are specified as well. So let me quickly save this desktop. Will Smith mod.csv. So yes, we've got the CSV modified. What are we planning to do? We're planning to modify the SMTP address for William Smith. How are we planning to do that? We are planning to modify his address through a CSV file. So this can very well be used for bulk user modification. All you'll have to do is add more values to the CSV file. So we're trying to import a CSV file, the one that I made right now. Yes, William Smith. Hitting open. The moment I hit OK, the product is going to validate the CSV for its correctness. Yes, it's validated and it's all right. So we saw William Smith to have William Smith at the rate of workshop.com to be his primary SMTP address, and the SMTP address right here, the secondary SMTP address, was not available at all. So if you want to add more users, you can add values to the CSV file, check all of them and hit update. Now it's just going to be William Smith, so I'm hitting update. This window is a critical window. So this is called as the attribute selection window, from where you'll have to specify the attribute that has to be modified, which is the proxy address attribute, and the attribute that has to serve as the reference point, which is the SAM account name. So right after I import my user into the system, right, hit update, I'm prompted with a window that lets me update a user's attribute based on a reference point. The SAM account name is going to be my unique attribute that's going to say it's William Smith's account that's got to be modified, and the attribute that's got to be modified is the proxy address attribute. Alright? That's as regards to selecting the attribute that's got to be modified and the attribute that has to serve as reference. One observation that you might have made is the advanced option, so you would not want to miss out on this. Let me click on advanced. So I have two options, one that says append values and number two that says clear the attributes value in AD if its value in the CSV is empty. So if you were to click append values, what's going to happen is, maybe for an attribute like proxy addresses, or maybe for an attribute like group membership, right, which can have multiple values. The proxy address can have multiple values. Likewise, group membership can also have multiple values. At that point in time, if I have a CSV file with multiple values and if I want those values to be appended, what option do I have to click? This one right here. So I'll have to check this option to make sure that the values get appended and not cleared off or not altered. So here my intention is not to append, so I'll have to uncheck this. So if you want to carry out a modification from existing value to a new value, make sure that you uncheck append values, so that way the existing value gets cleared off and the value from the CSV file gets automatically updated. Okay, so that's one thing about appending values. The next one is clearing attributes value. So you might have cases where you want to clear off attributes values. So in this case, we're talking about SMTP address. So if you want to like just clear off attribute values for SMTP address, you can simply say, all right, from the CSV we have for Will Smith, right? Proxy address attribute is mentioned. When I clear this off or leave it empty, what's going to happen is, when this option right here is checked, which says clear the attribute value when CSV is empty, William Smith's proxy address is going to get removed off and he is not going to have a proxy address at all. Likewise, any other attribute, say the description or the department or anything for that matter, if you will want to do a cleanup, all you'll have to do is just have the LDAP header specified and not have any value for that, or have the value left as blank. So that's there for the advanced options. So let me uncheck that as well. So I'm keeping it pretty simple. I want to modify the SMTP address based on the SAM account name. No append operation, no clear operation. Click OK and hit update. Yes, what do we see right here? We see that the user's SMTP address has been successfully updated. So it says the primary SMTP address is wsmith@workshop.com and secondary SMTP address is williams@workshop3.com. So this is basically based on the input that I gave. Let me quickly cross check. Let's believe only what we see. So William Smith, yes, we've got William Smith right here. Initially, William had his SMTP address set as williamsmith@workshop.com. Now let's see if it's altered to williams@workshop.com. Yes, we've got it altered to wsmith@workshop2.com. So this, the reference that I gave you, number 2, that I had specified, yes, that's there, and 3 as well. The secondary SMTP address is updated as well. So we've successfully altered Will Smith's SMTP address with a CSV file. So if you want to alter values for multiple users, same example, have values keyed in right after this. Roger, Federer, or whoever you want, and the corresponding custom value to which it's got to be altered also specified in the same CSV file. So we are done with the task of modifying the SMTP address for bulk of users based on our custom requirement. But then if your organization calls for a requirement where there's a standard that's got to be followed when it comes to SMTP address modification, the option that we'll have to talk about is this: modify SMTP addresses. Click on that, select the option that says add. Here it's crucial to have the right naming format set. The naming format is called as the standard naming format. Alright, so it's going to be given name. In my case, let me take an example. So here I'm altering the primary SMTP address into a set specific naming format which says given name, which is the first name, and I'm having a dot in between followed by the second name @ workshop.com. So what I'm trying to do right here is not just manually mention in the, like in the previous case where I had William Smith at workshop.com. Instead, I'm having a specific said predefined naming format or standard naming format and having the SMTP addresses modified. So can I just modify my primary SMTP address? Nope. You can also add formats for secondary SMTP address. So likewise, I can have this as well, and I can have this saved. So what are we doing right here? Instead of manually modifying SMTP address, if I want a standard to be followed, or if I want a common nomenclature or so common syntax to be followed and that to be applied across the organization, say for example all this long your organization had the format of first name followed by last name, and now the format has to be modified to first name dot last name. That's the new format. So you can have this specific template that's put in place followed by a simple CSV import. All the users in your organization who there in the CSV file are going to automatically have their CSV have their SMTP address modified to this format. Okay, so we're done with the third task for the day, which is modifying SMTP address. The next one is going to be pretty critical, which is deep provisioning. So when it comes to deep provisioning, like I told you in the introduction, deep provisioning is basically a three-phase process, just a quick, simple process. Okay, you will have to do three steps. One thing is to remove the user of their group membership, which is right here, group attributes. Number 2 is to disable the users, right here. And number 3 is to delete the users. So deprovisioning is a three-phase process with all the three tasks put right next to each other: removing group attributes or group membership for security reasons, disabling the account, alright, probably after 10 or 15 days, and finally once you're perfectly sure that the employee or the user is no longer going to be a part of your organization, you can delete the user as well. 1, 2, 3. Delete group membership, disable the user, and finally delete the user from the organization in total. So group attributes, select clear all group membership. So this is a best practice. You can select clear all group membership. That's going to remove the group membership for all of those users who are going to either be imported or going to be searched for, and hit apply. So you can clear all group membership. So that's the first task: clear all group membership of the user for who you want to do the deprovisioning. Okay, again from AD management, the second step is going to be disabling the user, right? hit disable, select disable and import users, or again search for the user and hit OK. Very simple, straightforward, self-explanatory steps. Hit disable, import the user and hit OK. So the second task is also done. And finally, if you want to delete users, under AD management, last and final phase after your group membership is cleared off and users are disabled is to delete. Deletion again is straightforward. Import a CSV file, hit OK, you're done with deletion. That's done. So you might have a question, what if I delete an user accidentally? Yes, we've got an option to restore users as well from this option right here that says restore deleted users, right? Pretty simple again, you'll have to specify the user using a CSV import who you want like have back in the organization. It's just that the domain functional level has to be above 2008 R2 and the recycle bin option also has to be enabled from your native. Okay, if those two prerequisites are met, domain functional level above 2008 R2 and recycle bin feature is enabled, you can restore users who you accidentally deleted. So deprovisioning, the third and final phase, is also done. We're left with just two simple tasks, not going to take more than 2 minutes. We're going to show you that. So we're done with user modification templates. We're done with user deprovisioning in 3 steps. Group attribute removal, disabling the users, and finally deleting the users. So what more do we have? We've got the last two tasks, which is migrating Exchange mailboxes and freeing up inactive Office 365 licenses. So again, Exchange tasks, you will be finding it under the tab right here. We modified with this option. We are now migrating the mailbox. All actions or all tasks are self-explanatory. All you'll have to do is just look for the right description. It says migrate mailbox. It can't get any simple. Just specify the mailbox server to where you want it to be migrated. Likewise, the database, right? Import the users. So the format is pretty straightforward and it's going to more or less apply to every single action. You specify the action, post which you specify the import where you have your users listed and hit OK. Mailbox migration done. This is less than under a minute. Less than a minute you can get this done. AD management, mailbox migration, migrate mailbox, select the location to which it's got to be migrated, import the users, and you'll have your mailboxes migrated. So for all of this to work, you'll have to ensure that your integration is done right. We'll be talking about that in the 5th week, the last week. All right. So integration as in your Exchange ADManager Plus integration, your O365 ADManager Plus integration. So we're done with the migration of mailboxes, and last task for the day, it's going to be Office 365 license management. So how do you do that? If you have a list of users who are inactive in your Office 365, you can make use of the Office 365 management tab right here and get into assign and remove licenses for inactive users. How do you get hold of inactive users? Pretty simple, AD reports. We'll be talking about AD reports in detail in the next week. So do join me next week as well. We'll be talking about AD reports and Office 365 reports. So AD reports, Office 365 reports, right? We've got a section called as inactive users. You can generate reports based on time of inactivity. Say 3 months of inactivity is what I'm looking for. 3 months of inactivity in Office 365, hit generate, I'll have a list, right? From that list, I can have a CSV exported, get back to my AD management tab for my Office 365 management and remove licenses. So AD management, Office 365 management and remove licenses. So from the CSV that I exported from the reports or the CSV that I already have, okay, I can just go ahead import the CSV file, hit apply, or if I do not have a CSV file, if I'm the types who wants to search for the specific user because I already know who the user is, from the list that's available and from the search bar that's available, you can select a specific user. In this case, let's say Alfred in this case, alright? Alfred has been inactive in my organization, so I want to remove his license. So I'm selecting Alfred from AD Management, Office 365 Management, Remove Licenses module and hitting apply. So now I'm prompted with a message that says assign or revoke licenses. So here I intend to remove licenses. So I'm going to remove Alfred of all of his licenses. I've selected this option that says remove all licenses. The moment I hit apply, Alfred is going to be stripped of his Office 365 license. So why are we doing this? We are doing this basically to remove inactive users from having Office 365 licenses. Likewise, if you have your case where you want to reassign that license to another user who's active, you can add the removed license from this add license by selecting the right user. So pretty simple. Search for the user who you want to remove license for, select remove all licenses, hit apply. Likewise, search for the user who you want to apply the removed license to, select the user, again get back and add the license. So yes, we're almost about done for today's session. Let me give you a quick glimpse or recap for that matter. We were talking about group membership modification using user modification templates. We got that done. We also were talking about home folder migration right after a decommissioning. We were talking about modifying SMTP addresses both in single and in bulk. We also followed the templated approach. Finally, we saw the three-step deprovisioning process that involved deleting group membership, disabling the account and deleting the account as such. And we also took the case of accidental account deletion and how to restore. Finally, we were talking about exchange mailbox migration, two-step exchange mailbox migration. And lastly, we saw how to free up inactive users Office 365 licenses. Alright, we're done with today's session. Quick sneak peek into what's coming up next week. We'll be talking about AD reporting. So like I showed you in today's example for Office 365 reporting, we'll be talking about AD reporting in detail. Alright, so this is going to be the agenda for next week, and what I've done already is I've shared the presentation deck with you guys in the hands out section. You can avail that, you can download the presentation and get to see what we are going to discuss in the coming week, which is the next week, which is going to be about Active Directory reporting. Okay, thank you once again for having taken the time. Please feel free to make use of the chat window that's available to shoot out your questions for the day. I'm going to answer those questions, and in case you want to talk to our support agents, no problem at all. Just drop an email to this specific ID and we'll have your query resolved. It's going to be support@admanagerplus.com. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. I hope the session was informative. All right. Until next week, this is Jay signing off. You all have a great day. Thank you so much.